Hi everybody, welcome to today's Cosmic Chat. We are discussing the full blood moon lunar eclipse in Taurus in the month of Scorpio with Rachel the astrologer. So I'm going to add Rachel and we will get started right away. I hope everybody had a great sleep last night because the eclipse actually happened early this morning on the East Coast, kind of in the middle of the night here on the West Coast. Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
So nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I feel like whenever you see me, I'm tan, right? I just came back.
Did you just come back from somewhere?
Yeah, I was in Israel. Israel.
It's the best.
I was in Israel and then I went to Arizona. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure you've been to Sedona before, right?
I love it. It's amazing.
Oh my God. Well, people always talked about it and I was like, okay, some people feel things like that. It's not exactly my thing, but I was there and I was like, you can't not feel it. It's like unbelievable. So
Did you do the trail where you went right by that wall, that block wall where you could really feel it, or you just
No. We got there on Friday because Richard and my husband were on a vacation and in another place, and then we drove to Sedona. So I have to say that I was like, whatever, I'll go. I wasn't like so. But when I got there, I'm like, oh my God, I have to come here like all the time. It feels so good there. It's so healing. It's really unbelievable. And I got back home especially for the eclipse. No, I'm joking, but that's how it happened. That I got home and we had that eclipse this morning. So do you feel that? Do you feel that like energy?
I feel it totally. Actually, for me, it felt like kind of very healing. I did have a Taurus friend reach out last night saying like, what's going on? And I said, what's going on with this eclipse? Can you give me some insights? And I said, check out this live today. Come join us and get an insight, because I think it's bringing up a lot of things for people around security, right?
Absolutely. So first, we have to understand what it was. Whoever doesn't know, we had a lunar eclipse this morning. It was 5 a.m. Eastern time. So by you, it was like much earlier. I don't know if like people actually woke up to see it, but we have to understand, by the way, that according to Kabbalah, it's really not the best to look, even though it's very tempting. As a lunar eclipse is not necessarily an energy that you want to look into, because it does represent some kind of a lack. So it's like we don't want to tap into a lack. This is the first thing. And again, it's not that if you look now you're doomed or anything, but just generally there's certain things that like we don't even know that maybe even if it's really interesting or tempting, it's probably not the best thing to like stare at it. But if you did, it's fine. But what I want to explain is exactly like what you said, is that we have to understand that the eclipses are related to karma. They're related to what we call in Kabbalah tikkun, to the processes that each and every one of us has to go through. Not only that are related to this lifetime, that are related to many lives ago. To some of us it will be one life, some of it can be 10 or 100 lives, right? And when we understand, like, I know obviously if it's okay, we can talk about it for a second, like you're Taurus with Scorpio rising, and the Scorpio energy is very strong, because we also in the month of Scorpio. So you were kind of like not attacked, I don't mean it like that, but like you got energy from both. You got the energy from the Taurus moon, that is your sun sign, and from the Scorpio sun. And when you're in an eclipse season, these are the players, the Scorpio and the Taurus. And for each and every one of us, we have Scorpio and Taurus in the chart, even if we don't have any planets there. Because, like, for instance, I'm Taurus rising, but like my seventh house is in Scorpio, right? So it's like if like somebody's house, and for you it's also the seventh and the first. So for you, if like let's say we give an example, right, of the first and the seventh. I know people are asking questions. I'll answer that in a second why it's not recommended. But what I wanna explain is that we are asked to work on those areas. So for instance, if for you it's in the area of relationship and first house. What is first house? First house is who I am. What do I want? What is the way that I want to express myself in the world? Where is my courage? Where is the place that I'm connected to my leadership, to me being first, not in a negative way,
Right.
in a positive way? Am I really first for myself in my life, right? Seventh house, again, in that case, I mean, for some people it can be in other houses, right? Seventh house will be very related to other people, to partnerships, to relationships. So if the eclipse falls for someone in the seventh house, it means that this eclipse gives them energy to change relationships in their lives. And it can be the spousal relationship, and it can be with a mother, it can be with a sibling, it can be with a coworker. But the eclipse, and eclipses have impact of 6 months. That eclipse is 6 months. So it means that in the next 6 months, we have like that energy of influence. And
Wow.
it's not really only 6 months, because those eclipses happen like in those signs. Even if we look at it in the 6-year thing, but it's really like much more than that. So it's like we are affecting now our whole life basically.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow. That's just not so much pressure, but
no stress.
no pressure. Anything. Don't worry. There's not going to be another full blood moon eclipse until 2025, but this is no big deal.
Exactly. But like what I want to say about it is that like what we want to understand is that why are we here? What are we doing here? We are here to learn things. Right. So it's like, even if like I feel that stressed by it, I feel that like, oh my gosh, what do you mean changes now? With the Taurus energy, it's almost like scary to think of changes, but it's not really what it's about. A lot of times it changes in your perspective. It changes in your consciousness. It's understanding, like let's say if we talk about career.
Right.
Let's say if somebody gets the eclipse in the 10th house, which is the house of their career. I know like some of you probably don't know your where it sits. And for that, I mean, I advise all of you to, if you never had a natal chart done, you can do it with me or anybody. If you have another astrologer you connect to, it's a very important thing to know what's happening in your chart. Because if somebody's eclipse is in, like, let's say as the example, in the house of career, it means that in this period, you're going to be tested. So even if it feels not career related, you need to understand it's actually related to my career. What does it mean? Do I need to change it? Do I need to take more accountability? Do I need to take less responsibilities? Do I need to get help? Do I need to do things by myself? The eclipse,
like work smarter instead of work harder.
Exactly,
like
which
that.
is perfect.
Like evolve yourself.
For the Taurus. Exactly. To look at the Taurus energy and say work smarter and not work harder is actually a brilliant thing, because the Taurus can work very hard. It's not that they're very smart people, but they believe in hard work. And even though they don't want that, they want to rest, like they want to chill, but eventually they put themselves in situations that they're going to work very hard. So, and an eclipse, when the moon is eclipsed, which is what we're having, what we had today, and the energy is still there, and somebody said that they didn't sleep well, yes, people, I also, not because of me, because of other things that happened in the house with my children, but people that are sensitive to eclipses even won't sleep well in the night of an eclipse a lot of times. It's a normal thing for people, by the way. So when the moon is eclipsed, basically the moon is connected to our desire to receive and our emotional makeup. So it's like, again, let's say if we talk about a relationship that is tested during that eclipse, right? So it's like ready to say, I think it's that person. That's how we feel. But actually it's, wait a minute, it's my emotions about the situation,
Right,
that I want to look into. What's going on with how I feel here? What's going on with like how I react to the situation? Do I blame? Do I choose to stay comfortable?
mm-hmm.
Now, as you said in the beginning, the eclipses, Taurus, Scorpio is a lot of times related to my courage and my willingness to break the norm, to go out of my comfort zone, to push through things, and the need to feel comfortable and safe. And the opposite of it, the belief that things can be easy,
Right,
that things can be comfortable, that chaos and drama are not a necessity in my life. You know, to look, where do I choose chaos and drama too? Because we think it happens on us, but actually we're not passive recipients. We manifest a lot of times chaos and drama in our lives because
right,
of our beliefs.
right. Wow. And so what about, so, okay, so two questions that came to mind. One was I saw a friend of like a big Scorpio who just got on. So how would this affect somebody who's a Scorpio? And the other question is, I know that a lot of people have the North Node, South Node, Taurus, Scorpio, because Taurus and Scorpio are opposite each other on the chart, right?
Right.
So what's the significance of that? And if you were, I actually happen to be coming from Scorpio, with a North Node in Taurus. So how would it affect, and people also born in the same year as me, 1985. I know I saw a couple people with that too. So the Scorpio and
right. Perfect. So first of all, to understand the nodes, like, so in your chart, you know, you said I come from past life. How do you know that? Basically, it's related to the moon nodes. And the moon nodes are actually, that's the eclipses. Moon nodes are the calculators of when we're going to have what sign the eclipses are going to happen in, when, and obviously it's when in the year, but for us it means also what signs the eclipses are going to be astrologically. So when somebody soul comes in a year, like in your case, that Scorpio Taurus, right? Because it's like both, was that energy of the eclipses. It means that like you come from previous life's energy in your particular example, that your energy was very intense, very dramatic, very afraid not to have. But also, it doesn't mean that when you come to this lifetime, you're going to act like that. It could be that you act completely opposite, especially you, because you're in the opposite sign in your sun sign, right? But what is the idea behind it? That when you correct what needs to be corrected related to the axis, the moon nodes, what you do is when you correct your previous lives, you're fixing not only what happened before, you're fixing for your upcoming generations, you're correcting things that are you're going to get rid of. It's like you're doing your purpose, so it opens you up for blessings. So for instance, if somebody's opposite, let's say somebody is a Taurus past life, like somebody that was born, if there's anybody like the year of 75, right? They come from Taurus, which means that in past lives they were very about security, safety, but their energy was more stagnant. They weren't trying new things. They weren't taking risks. So in this lifetime, and with the eclipses happen, even though it's an opposite, the nodes are opposite right now, it still gives the people an opportunity to correct it.
Right.
So to do things that are outside of my comfort zone, to take risks will be an advice. For a person that it's the opposite, like in your case, it will be to believe that if something is peaceful, it's real. I don't need to sit and say, when is the, excuse my language, when is the shit hitting the fan? Or in a nicer way, when is the
When's the
other
earthquake
shit
gonna come?
dropping?
Yeah.
Right? Like, not to wait for, okay, it's too good now. When is it going to
Or
become
when
bad?
is the secret this is one I can really relate to. When is the secret gonna come out? I know that there's something there. When is it gonna appear? And then it's gonna just blow the whole thing over.
Right. And at the end of the day, even when you look at the Scorpio and the Taurus, you know, opposites are really the same.
Right.
Opposite come from the same place. If it's such an extreme opposite, you need to know it comes from the same place. When a Scorpio asks, when am I going to see the real story there?
Yeah.
That lack of trust, where is it coming from? Fear. Fear. I can't trust.
Right.
When I don't trust people, it's not that I don't trust people. I don't trust the Creator. I don't trust myself.
Wow.
Because I don't trust the process. Because if somebody's going to take from me something that is mine, it means that I don't trust that what is mine, and what I earn, and what I need, I'll get. And it's the same for the Taurus. The Taurus is so afraid to lose, so afraid to be uncomfortable, so afraid that, like, if I give, I'm not going to have. It comes from the same place, fear of not having.
Wow.
So we're tested now in a place, in the deepest places of sense of neglect. Where do we feel neglected? Where do we feel that I'm never going to have my full satisfaction, that I can get no satisfaction, right? This is like that Taurus, Scorpio energy. Like, I'll never be satisfied, so I need to fight for it. Or I'll never be satisfied, so I need to maintain what I have. But at the end of the day, the way they manifest maybe is opposite, but it comes from fear of not having. And that's the work. So it's like when we understand where our nodes fall, again, that energy, the Scorpio Taurus, this is a time that we want to understand where am I afraid, and where don't I trust, and where's my safety really coming from.
And even if you're not Scorpio Taurus, right, you're still going to be, this is the influence of this time. So this is for everybody, right?
Of course, because we all have it in our chart somewhere.
Right.
We all have Scorpio in our chart. We all have Taurus in our chart. Even if it's not with actual planets, we have, like, people can, what do you mean? It can be in your house of relationship. It can be in your house of career. It can be in your house of health. It can be in your house of money. It can be in your house of family. It can be, it falls for every person. This moon fell somewhere today. Right. And this is the work that we're pushed to do,
So I was just thinking of health. What came to mind was, like, so if it were in health, it might be like, okay, tested in sometimes, the Scorpio can hold kind of like different, either to be very extreme or to hold different fears about health, that you keep inside, but they're just kind of like these little things that run in your mind. Sometimes it could be imprints from another time. And so with the Taurus, it would be, okay, now practical steps. What practical steps can I just start taking to feel safe and to start making changes in my health to, whatever it looks like for each person.
What gives us safety, really? What gives us a sense of safety? Of course, it's the relationship with the Creator, but we feel safe when we feel we can do something about it.
Right.
So the control, which is also, of course, related to the Scorpio, right? My son came from school with the those rubber bracelet that say things on them. Yeah. It says, like, control what you can control. And the first feeling I had was like, why they tell my kid to control? I was like a little, and then I was like, wait, relax, because right away I want to be like, they're not, but it is very spiritual. Because you think that I can control and that I can't control. How powerful is that? Like, if I can't control, I can't get pissed off and I can't get annoyed, and I know I can't. And what I can control, which is, let's say, with health, what can we control? What we eat, if we exercise, if we like meditate or give ourselves anxiety free as much as possible life. And when we understand that we can control what we can control, it's also anxiety free, because I can. What am I going to do? There's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
It brings a lot of peace, you know? So it's exactly what you're saying. You can do, so when you feel you can do things, it gives you a sense of safety, and it gives you a sense of some kind of a positive control. But it's one of the hardest things to do, to control, right, to go to the gym, not to eat the chocolate cake, right? These are the hardest things, but we can.
They're the hardest things for some, but then on the flip side, you can, and it's funny because I saw a friend of mine on here who, you can also go to the extreme of the other way, where you start over exercising and you start, you know,
right,
going crazy with the, and I've actually done all of the above in my lifetime, gone to extremes in different ways. And then I realized, oh, in terms of health, for example, the best thing for me is to maintain this kind of balance and moderation, which is, you know, not to do, I used to do like extreme cleanses and all this kind of stuff, but it was kind of reactive in itself, right?
Right, so, right. And for you, it's also related to the North Node in the 6th house. Right. It's like, it's related to different things that you have in your chart. And I think that, like, what you're saying is basically, I was trying to over control certain situations, but you aren't nice to yourself so much. You were strict. And I think that to be gentle, I don't know if it's like an age thing, but I'm starting to really understand it, that to be gentle with yourself and others is like probably the best thing you can do. Because even if you ate a chocolate cake and you know how to be gentle with yourself and say, okay, so I ate it, and I was like, now the Jewish holidays, then I was in Israel, and then I went on with my husband to Arizona. I ate like a pig, you know? It's like, no offense to pigs or anything, but, and then I said to myself, you're on vacation, even if you eat a lot and you gain a little weight, you're gonna go back to normal life, and you're gonna you're not gonna be extreme. And I think that, like, the more you're able to be gentle with yourself, you're able to be gentle with others, which is also an amazing thing in life. You project gentleness, you know?
Totally. And also it's important to, that's something that I learned, it's important to enjoy. It was actually in 2017, and I would, like, I was going through a lot in my life. So it's like I don't know, my body was naturally just craving, I think, in order to know that I needed like emotional strength, because my brother was sick, and I didn't know that my dad was going to be sick, and then they were both going to pass away. But it's like somewhere in me that Scorpio had this psychic sense that something was coming. So I was really I was just naturally eating really light and like very healthy, and like kind of, you know, just gearing myself and my energetic space into a place of strength. Then I ended up going for work. I was in Italy, and when I was there, I'm like, what am I going to eat here? And then I kind of realized, because like, it's not really the food that I was used to eating, so healthy and so strict. And then I said, oh, I need to learn how to enjoy. Kind of like that movie, Eat, Pray, Love. You know, I said, enjoyment is also very important. It's like another level. It's like, yeah, it's one thing to be able to be controlling in this, but what about, and at the basis of all of it is a self-love. Right.
Right. And even when you talk about enjoyment, it's actually very Taurus related, the whole idea of pleasures. And you know that the way that our brain works is like that there's a very limited amount of time that you can experience a pleasure. Like even if you eat something, or even with sex, right? Like there's a certain amount of time that the pleasure will hold until, no matter, even if like now, you know, you eat like the most amazing, delicious food, after 5 or 6 bites of it, your pleasure is not going to be the same. The first bite will be unbelievable, and then the second good, and then the third okay. And then if you really pay attention, you'll see that you don't taste it the same. by the 8th or 9th bite. Why? Because our brain, it's a spiritual thing. We're not built to experience real pleasures for a long period of time, because what we really need to receive pleasure from is by work, by spiritual work, by change, because if we would just enjoy only the physical reality,
Right.
I don't want to make too long of an argument here, but we're not going to really look for deeper things than that, you know? So it's like, even when we talk about enjoyment, if we really let ourselves genuinely enjoy, we'll see that we're not going to eat like pigs, because the level of pleasure will end very soon. We just need to be very mindful. I think that's what it's about.
Exactly.
You know? It's perfect to talk about in the Taurus energy. Absolutely.
Exactly, because, and you can kind of make it spiritual, because with every time that you say like no, that you get choosy, like no, that doesn't feel right, you can make it intuitive. It's kind of like the Scorpio part can say like, is that really what I want to eat, or is that just my instant gratification wants that? And then as you begin to say no, then you build an energy. So then when you get to the thing that actually is right for you, oh, it's so much more delicious, and you really enjoy it. And you don't feel bad from it. You actually feel good because it's feeding you, because of all the steps that you took. Because a lot of the things that we receive in life, or that manifest in our lives, we think it's just about the manifestation. But most of the work happens beforehand. Like I can say, like when I made certain huge changes in my life, it was like 2 years of work beforehand internally for me to like really get to, wait, is that what it, to clarify that answer and to have it come out, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that like when you understand that the more I work inside, it's like you said, when the test even comes,
right,
I'm gonna really, it's like if food is an example, that it's right for everything.
right.
The more I understand that I need to do things that are good for me, when I see something that is bad for me, I'm not gonna do it.
Exactly.
Including relationships.
Right.
So many people can be in toxic situations in relationships, but at the moment that they do some work of self-love and self-care, they're like, no, I don't want that anymore, right? Or a job that I don't like, or just something that I'm not happy with, like, and it's a very Taurus energy to check where in our lives we do things like out of like either inertia or just because I don't think I deserve something better, or because I am robotically doing it. And actually, like, no, that to be self-loving is not ego.
Yeah.
To work on self-loving is the highest spiritual thing you can do for yourself, but it's the real self-loving. It's the one that really wants to do what's good for me and what makes me happy, even if it requires a lot of effort. The difference between that and selfishness is that I'm going to take from others to give to myself. But if I do things to take care of myself, it's not selfish. It's opposite. It's a very spiritual thing to do.
Exactly. Wow.
Right?
So powerful, Rachel. Thank you so much. I think that we had some questions. If anybody else has any questions specifically. There was one more thing that I was going to say about the North Node, South Node. So if you don't know where yours is and you want to look it up, or you want to like kind of look into your life, you can look at, like, for example, like we said, I'm Taurus, right? So very like grounded, sweet. Even when I was a baby, my mom said, she never cried. You've never cried. You were the sweetest child. I was one of 6. Debbie had no problem. She was so small and sweet, and she just like amenable, which I don't know if that's really the best thing anymore. I'm trying to work on that. But then once I became a teenager, I had some situations come up, particularly in relationships with like betrayal and like all this. And it's like this Scorpio came out, and I was like shocked. I'm like, who am I? You know, I became like this drama queen. And so it's interesting. So if you can look in the nodes in your life, like behaviors or something that kind of surprises you, maybe now in your adult life, you've accepted it as part of yourself, but it's interesting.
Right, but also like even the fact that you are such a good baby. Yeah, Tauruses are very good baby. My sister has a daughter that is a Taurus. She says, they're so comfortable. Like they're comfortable kids. They, as long as they get their needs met, they're easy, right?
Yeah.
But in the big picture, just to be an easy kid can come also from that Scorpio that feels I can't be difficult. It can be so much deeper than what we think, right? Because the Scorpio past life is like, I'm difficult. I don't want to be difficult. And then in your teens, it can. I just want to answer the person that asked again about the not to look at the eclipse. Is just because somebody asked it, they didn't hear the part. When it's just because when the moon is covered, the moon is representing a vessel. It's representing our emotional vessel. And when it's covered, it just means that there's a lack of light there. Like we're lacking light. It's like a neglect energy from the vessel. So when you look at it, you just connect to energy of a lack. That's what it's about. It's not like, but again, it's not the end of the world if you did. So please don't worry about it. Generally, there's nothing, almost nothing irreversible in anything, in any ways. There's always a place. And I think this is, unless you have anything else to ask me, I think this is a very good way to understand it, because the Scorpio Taurus energy basically also says change can always happen. Nothing is stagnant. Nothing is forever. At the moment that any person wants to make a change, the opening is there for them. And there's always, the door is never locked. And that's I think, something important to remember.
That's beautiful, especially when it, like you were talking about lack, like certain lacks that people may have in any area, in love, in health, in finances, in money.
Yeah.
It can also be with the Taurus Scorpio. It's never final, right?
Right, and to remember that the lack, if I feel a lack, or I feel generally something, it's because I'm called for an action. It's not really about feeling I don't deserve. It's like, what can I do?
Right.
Control what you can control. But what can I do? What can I do to prevent that lack, or to remove that lack from my life? Because the lack is the illusion.
Right. Do you think it's more about action, or it's perspective, or is it both?
It's both. It's both. It's always like when our perspective changes, our actions will change. If it's a real, because a change of perspective is one of the hardest things to do in a real way. But even if I'm used to something and I see it since I'm a kid in a certain way, and that's what my father did, and that's what my mother did, and that's what, and now I'm asked to look at it differently, but that's what I know. That's the chaos I'm so familiar with, So it's like, at the change of perspective, then will be the change in the physical reality too.
Beautiful. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. And thank you to everybody that have been listening. And I wish all of us an amazing energy of changes and happiness and sense of fulfillment.
Yes. And if you haven't gotten your chart done, then Rachel I can attest. She's done my chart a few times. She's an amazing astrologer. She can do natal charts. You can look at relationships. You can look at progressions, what's going on right now in your life. So check it out, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and have an amazing day.
You too. Thank you, Rachel.
Bye-bye.